a former NFL defensive tackle, just sent shockwaves across the league after blowing the whistle on what is really happening inside the Cleveland Browns' locked-down practice facility, when Breiden Fehoko leaked that neither $230 million veteran Deshaun Watson nor rookie phenom Shedeur Sanders is actually the best quarterback on the field. Sports media completely exploded. Whispers from training camp indicate second-year passer Dillon Gabriel is quietly shredding defense reps, igniting wild speculation that Cleveland's QB depth chart is in total anarchy. But while fans jump to conclusions about a shocking third-string takeover, a deeper dive into the tape reveals a far more volatile situation brewing behind closed doors. Watson's erratic multi-interception practices and mechanical rust are exposing massive vulnerabilities, even as Shedeur rapidly closes the gap with intermediate precision. Today, we dissect the game film, the contract pressure, and the locker room noise to expose whether Gabriel is truly dominating or if Cleveland is desperately trying to hide a full-blown quarterback disaster. The firestorm erupted on social media with 9 simple, cryptic words from former defensive tackle Breiden Fehoko: "Don't shoot the messenger. Word in the Cleveland Browns locker room is the best quarterback isn't Deshaun or Shedeur right now." In an NFL offseason dominated by constant noise, hot takes, and manufactured drama, a post like this would normally be brushed aside as cheap clickbait. However, Fehoko isn't just an anonymous armchair analyst throwing darts at a dartboard from his couch. Having spent real time inside active NFL locker rooms, Fehoko remains uniquely tapped into current players across the league, lending immediate street cred to what would otherwise sound like absurd speculation. The moment his post hit the internet, it racked up millions of impressions within hours, forcing beat reporters and fans alike to pause and ask the unthinkable: what on earth is actually transpiring inside Cleveland's quarterback room? To understand why Fehoko's claim hit the sports world like a ton of bricks, you have to peel back the layers of Cleveland's high-stakes off-season narrative. Heading into training camp, the national conversation was strictly scripted around a two-man fight. On one side stood Deshaun Watson, carrying the legacy of the most controversial guaranteed contract in professional sports history and fighting for his entire NFL career. On the other side stood Shedeur Sanders, the high-profile rookie carrying immense family expectations, media scrutiny, and elite raw arm talent. But Fehoko's leak completely reframed the picture by bringing a forgotten variable into the equation: second-year quarterback Dillon Gabriel. Fehoko wasn't pulling a secret ghost out of thin air. He was directly referencing internal player chatter regarding Gabriel quietly running the offense with surprising efficiency while taking reps behind the two headline stars. Suddenly, the forgotten man on the depth chart became the focal point of a massive debate. Gabriel, a third-round pick out of Oregon who spent much of his debut season in the background, was now being described by guys inside the building as the most poised passer on the grass. Reports began trickling out from camp observers noting that while Watson struggled with rhythm and Sanders navigated the steep learning curve of reading NFL pre-snap looks, Gabriel was casually marching the offense down the field, making quick decisions and distributing the football with minimal mistakes. For a fan base desperate for functional, efficient quarterback play, the idea that Gabriel might actually be outperforming both high-priced stars was equal parts thrilling and terrifying. Yet, this stunning revelation brings us directly to the central million-dollar thesis of this entire quarterback war. Is Dillon Gabriel actually outplaying two former premier talents through genuine mastery of the system, or are we witnessing a classic summer illusion? History tells us that early non-padded practice reps in shorts and t-shirts heavily favor cerebral, short-area passing quarterbacks who face non-blitzing third-string defenses. When real pass rushers aren't allowed to hit and backups are playing simplified coverage schemes, a third-string passer can look like a Hall of Famer. Is Gabriel truly pushing for QB1, or is his apparent dominance simply highlighting deep-seated structural flaws in Deshaun Watson's camp performance? To answer that, we have to look past the social media hype and examine what is really happening when the film rolls. When you roll the tape on Dillon Gabriel's practice sessions, it becomes immediately clear why eyewitnesses in Berea are buzzing. Operating within head coach Todd Monken's fast-paced spread system, Gabriel appears remarkably fluid, slicing through pass coverages and executing run-pass options with surgical precision. But context in early August is everything. Gabriel has primarily been commanding the third-team offense, which means his glowing highlights are coming almost exclusively against fringe roster defensive backs and linebackers who are struggling just to get aligned before the snap. In these early non-padded periods, pre-snap reads are intentionally kept simple by design, allowing a quarterback to drop back, make a single progression, and get the ball out on time. Against backup defenders, playing soft zone coverages to avoid giving up explosive vertical routes, Gabriel's statistical box score looks nearly flawless on paper. He is stringing together high completion practice periods, taking 0 sacks and hitting receivers in rhythm right on their back numbers. To the untrained eye, it looks like a quarterback playing at a masterclass level, far outperforming the messy, vertical shot-taking of the top unit groups. This early efficiency isn't an accident. It is the direct product of Gabriel's collegiate pedigree. Having racked up tens of thousands of yards across his college career in high-tempo, quick-trigger spread offenses, Gabriel is tailor-made for short area completion drills and 7-on-7 pass periods. His natural comfort level with quick game concepts, screen passes, and shallow crosses allows him to play at max speed when the field is clean and the pocket is clean. Monken's offensive playbook relies heavily on rhythm, spatial awareness, and fast processing, traits Gabriel honed across years of starting experience in college. When practice calls for 3-step drops and immediate triggers under 10 yards, Gabriel looks like an elite distributor. His ball placement on quick slants and swing passes is pinpoint, keeping the offense continuously ahead of the chains and creating the visual illusion of absolute dominance. For players watching from the sidelines, seeing a backup rhythmically march down the field without a single stalled drive is naturally impressive, sparking the exact locker room chatter that Bryden Fehoko eventually made public. However, football evaluators know there is a massive gulf between lighting up a third-string defense in non-padded 7-on-7 drills and standing tall against a starting NFL defense in heavy 11-on-11 contact periods. When Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders drop back with the first and second units, they aren't facing third-string defenders working through simplified installs. They are lining up against Jim Schwartz's starting defense, a unit notorious for firing off the ball with terrifying speed, disguising coverage shell looks late in the pre-snap clock, and clogging passing lanes with elite athleticism. Facing that starting front seven means quarterbacks don't get the luxury of clean, unthreatened pockets or wide-open intermediate windows. Where Gabriel faces soft cushion coverages against guys fighting for practice squad spots, Watson and Shedeur are constantly navigating muddy pockets, shrinking completion windows, and relentless pass rushes. A throw that looks easy for Gabriel against a reserve cornerback would be an immediate pass breakup or interception against Cleveland's starting secondary. Evaluating a quarterback's readiness based on third-team reps is a dangerous trap, and while Gabriel's rhythm play is commendable, taking reps against zero blitz pressure from starting edge rushers is an entirely different sport. While Dillon Gabriel shines in third-string periods and captures viral headlines, the harsh spotlight on Field 1 reveals a far grimmer reality surrounding the man expected to lead this franchise. The Athletic's Zach Jackson and beat reporters on the ground have painted a troubling picture of Deshaun Watson's early training camp performance, detailing a disturbing pattern of multi-interception practice sessions, mechanical rust, and erratic accuracy. In the opening days of camp alone, Watson stacked 6 interceptions across just 4 practice sessions, turning routine team drills into a highlight reel for Cleveland's opportunistic defensive secondary. Observers inside the facility have described his passes as noticeably lacking zip, frequently coming out late, and floating into contested coverage windows where starting safety coverage easily makes plays. After missing extensive time and battling back from a severe Achilles injury, Watson looks every bit like a quarterback who hasn't played meaningful competitive football in nearly 2 years. The quick twitch, Instinctual magic that once defined his Pro Bowl days in Houston has surrendered to visible hesitation in the pocket. This mechanical rust is exacerbated by the steep learning curve of head coach Todd Monken's newly installed offensive scheme. Monken's playbook requires lightning-fast pre-snap reads, quick dropbacks, and immediate decision-making elements of quarterback play that are exposing Watson's current limitations. Where Watson used to rely on extending plays with his athleticism to create backyard chaos, Monken demands structure, timing, and footwork precision. In Team 11-on-11 drills, Watson frequently looks caught between two minds, holding onto the football a split second too long, double clutching on primary reads, and failing to process coverage rotations before Jim Schwartz's pass rush closes in. Rather than taking the easy short completion built into the design, Watson has consistently forced deep balls into double coverage, leading directly to turnovers. While Watson publicly insists that training camp is the time to make mistakes and test limits, throwing 6 interceptions in a 4-day span under the intense gaze of the media carries massive psychological weight for a team trying to establish an offensive identity. Hovering over every thrown interception and missed read is the multi-$100 million elephant in the room, Watson's historic fully guaranteed contract. Cleveland's front office invested unprecedented financial resources and draft capital into securing Watson as the permanent centerpiece of the franchise. Yet, entering the final stretch of that landmark deal, the astronomical gap between his salary and his on-field production has created an excruciating dilemma for the front office. In professional football, financial investments often grant starting quarterbacks a longer leash, but sunk cost fallacy cannot block out the stark reality on the practice field. Every erratic floater and late read puts Monken and general manager Andrew Berry under an intense microscope. Can an organization truly justify handing the reins of a playoff caliber roster to a veteran simply because of his paycheck when the film clearly shows a passer struggling to process baseline concepts? This tension has transformed Cleveland's QB battle from a standard camp competition into an absolute pressure cooker for the front office. Management loyalty to Watson is being tested with every passing day, as player performance in practice creates undeniable friction within the locker room. Veterans on defense and receivers running routes can instantly feel when a quarterback is operating out of rhythm, and no amount of corporate defense can cover up daily practice struggles. If Watson continues to turn the ball over and struggle with pre-snap diagnostics as padded practices intensify, the organization will face an existential choice: honor the veteran status dictated by contract numbers, or hand the keys to a younger quarterback who actually executes the offense on time. While Deshaun Watson navigates a rocky start to training camp, the real intriguing development on the practice fields in Berea Center around Shedeur Sanders' rapid progression. Going back to mandatory minicamp, skeptics questioned whether Sanders could seamlessly transition his shotgun-heavy collegiate playing style into Todd Monken's complex pro-style offense. Early spring practices certainly had their bumpy moments, as Shedeur occasionally held the ball too long, hesitated against disguised coverage, and looked hurried when setting protection calls at the line of scrimmage. However, the trajectory from late June into early August has shown a dramatic, visible leap in operational mastery. Rather than letting the speed of the NFL game overwhelm him, Shedeur has significantly quickened his pre-snap diagnostics, calling out protection slides and blitz threats with supreme composure. His release time has sharpened noticeably, allowing him to throw on platform and consistently beat closing defenders in Team 11-on-11 periods. Where Watson has struggled with deep ball placement and untimely turnovers, Shedeur has quietly posted impressive accuracy metrics across intermediate passing windows. Operating primarily in the 8 to 18-yard ranges, Shedeur is placing throws with remarkable touch and precision, routinely hitting receivers right in stride between linebackers and safeties. His ability to layer passes over middle-tier defenders while maintaining enough velocity to beat closing boundary cornerbacks has caught the immediate attention of the coaching staff. while Watson's downfield shots have frequently sailed over the heads of targets or drifted into double coverage, Shedheur's calculated, metric-driven approach ensures the offense stays on schedule. He is showing a seasoned understanding of risk management, taking the high percentage throw when available rather than forcing low probability highlight reels. Crucially, this operational growth is being fueled by an emerging chemistry with Cleveland's impressive young receiving core. In 11-on-11 drills, Shedeur has developed a clear comfort level with second-round rookie wide receiver Denzel Boston, utilizing Boston's massive frame and wide catch radius to win contested physical matchups along the sideline. Additionally, Shedeur's timing with second-year speedster Isaiah Bond has given the second-unit offense an explosive weapon over the middle, where Bond's off-season physical transformation allows him to turn quick intermediate completions into significant gains after the catch. Every time Shedeur steps onto the field, the body language of the unit elevates. Receivers are running their routes with full crispness, knowing the ball will arrive on time and on target. As Shedeur continues to rack up clean, efficient practice reps against first and second team defenses, his steady rise isn't just an encouraging developmental story, it is directly threatening Watson's grasp on the starting job. When you synthesize the chatter, the film breakdown, and the practice field dynamics, Bryden Fajoko's sensational leak begins to look less like a literal scouting report and more like an authentic window into a locker room experiencing severe cognitive dissonance. Professional football players are remarkably pragmatic evaluators of talent. They do not care about contract figures, viral draft hype, or legacy reputations. What players notice immediately on the grass is competence, ball security, and functional operational control. When veteran defenders and skill position players watch Dillon Gabriel step up with the third unit and effortlessly execute timing concepts without putting the football in danger, it creates a stark, unmistakable contrast against Deshaun Watson's highly visible struggles. The buzz about Gabriel isn't an indicator that head coach Todd Monken and the front office are quietly planning to hand the keys of the franchise to a third-string passer when September arrives. Rather, Gabriel's hyper-efficient practice reps are acting as a glaring mirror, magnifying Watson's mechanical rust, late reads, and alarming turnover totals. The locker room chatter Fehoko referenced is the natural byproduct of players watching a multi-$100 million starter flounder on routine plays, while backups look smooth operating the exact same system. Once you filter out the noise surrounding third-team practice squad coverages, the true quarterback competition in Cleveland strips down to its real explosive core. Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur Sanders. This is where the organizational crossroads becomes unavoidable for Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. On one side of the ledger, you have the financial reality of Watson's $230 million fully guaranteed contract, a monumental investment that management desperately wants to justify. On the other side, you have Shedeur Sanders quietly outplaying the veteran through the initial stretch of training camp, demonstrating superior intermediate ball placement, a lower turnover rate, and a growing rapport with young wideouts like Denzel Boston and Isaiah Bond. While Watson possesses the veteran track record and the backing of front office pride, Shedeur is offering something the Cleveland offense hasn't possessed in years: rhythm, poise, and consistent operational efficiency. The upcoming preseason games will serve as the ultimate proving ground that determines whether Cleveland makes an unprecedented philosophical pivot. Up until now, non-padded practices and selective team periods have allowed the front office to maintain a diplomatic public posture, insisting that reps are simply being rotated and that Watson remains the nominal starter. But live game action against unscripted defensive schemes and true pass rushes will strip away all room for internal corporate spin. To pull the trigger on benching a veteran carrying historic guaranteed money in favor of a young signal caller like Shedeur, Todd Monken must see undisputed proof under stadium lights. Monken needs to see Shedeur stand firm against blitz packages, command the huddle without pre-snap delay penalties, and execute second-half drives under game pressure. Conversely, if Watson takes the field in preseason action and continues to double clutch, hold on to the ball, and turn it over against secondary cornerbacks, the organization will no longer be able to hide behind his contract status. If Watson fails to establish functional rhythm during these full contact exhibition reps, starting him in week 1 risks alienating a championship caliber defense that cannot afford another season wasted on erratic quarterback play. Professional locker rooms turn toxic very quickly when players believe starting spots are awarded based on salary tags rather than earned on-field performance. If Shedeur continues to stack clean practice days while delivering precise execution in preseason games, the fan base and the locker room will demand a changing of the guard. The narrative of Dillon Gabriel may have provided the initial spark that set the internet on fire, but the underlying bonfire in Cleveland is entirely about Watson's fading grip on his career and Shedeur Sanders' relentless charge to take his place. Ultimately, the leak from Bryden Fehoko didn't expose a secret third-string quarterback controversy. It exposed a franchise teetering on the edge of a fundamental decision. Cleveland must decide whether to continue clinging to a multi-$100 million experiment that continues to stutter, or boldly hand the steering wheel to the young starter who is actively winning the team over snap by snap. As training camp transitions into full contact preseason games, every drop back, throw and read will carry immense weight. The clock is ticking down in Berea, and the winner of this internal war will shape not just Cleveland's upcoming season, but the long-term trajectory of the entire franchise.